Charlie Kirk's shooting suspect, a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson, now in custody. What's next is the question that many of us have. Joining us live to discuss is former federal prosecutor Bianca Forde. Bianca, thank you so much for joining. Utah authorities are planning to file charges on Tuesday. They're currently reviewing evidence to determine which charges to actually file. What can we expect, and what type of sentence might he be looking at, the suspect, if he is found guilty, depending on those charges?
Sure. Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me. I expect that we will see aggravated murder stay within the indictment, as well as potentially accompanied by weapons charges. For instance, we don't know yet if the defendant illegally possessed the firearm. It's customary in some jurisdictions to charge an offense of possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. But we're going to need to see that aggravated murder charge, because that is the hook through which the government can seek the death penalty in this case. There are a number of factors that elevate a murder from simple murder to a capital murder. And in this case, one of the elements that is likely to be leveraged is that the defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to another other than the deceased. And that is not a difficult fact pattern to allege at this point based on probable cause, because obviously we know that the killing happened in the midst of a large sea of people that were there to see Charlie Kirk speak. So I suspect and expect that we will see aggravated murder accompanied by some weapons charges as well. In addition, in terms of sentencing, I think we're a far way away from that. The prosecution is going to have to give the defendant notice that they're seeking the death penalty. A jury is going to have to convict the defendant. And then in a second phase, the jury is going to decide based on a series of aggravating and mitigating factors that we can't possibly completely foresee at this time, whether or not the death penalty is appropriate. Notably, Utah has the death penalty. There are two ways to leverage it, either by lethal injection or firing squad. So there's some irony here that the suspect, if convicted, could see his death similarly to how Charlie Kirk did.
Now, as you mentioned, Utah is a death penalty state. How first of all, I guess, how normal is it to see, them waiting a few days to sort of sift through the different possibilities, and depending on which way they go, could the death penalty be on the table if he's charged federally or by the state? And what is sort of the deciding factor in all of this?
There is no federal death penalty. Death penalty is specific to the state of Utah at this juncture. So charging aggravated murder is a capital offense, and that puts the death penalty on the table. So at the point, if this suspect is convicted at trial by a jury, under Utah law, a jury is going to have to unanimously decide that the death penalty is appropriate.
CNN reporting that he is not currently speaking to investigators. How would his silence affect the case, and what evidence do you think will be most applicable in these legal proceedings?
Sure, he has a right against self-incrimination under the Fifth Amendment. It is not unusual that a suspect who is accused of a criminal offense will exercise their right to be silent, right? That is actually pretty typical. Surprised me only seeking to speak to a lawyer at this point. So that is not unusual at all. And his silence can't, under our Constitution, be held against him. So that is not something that I'm surprised to see.
Now, in a case like this, does the judge take into account perhaps setting an example to discourage similar actions and actors in the future?
When you say setting an example, I suspect the judge is going to decide the case, particularly the next phase of this, when the prosecution puts forth their indictment. It is different in terms of how long we expect to wait with respect to an indictment. Here in Utah, apparently it's 3 days. So when that procedural document is filed, there's going to be another opportunity for the defense to seek release of the defendant and for the prosecution to maintain that the defendant be held. The judge, I suspect, is going to go with the law and going to look at the nature of the offense, consider the dangerousness of the individual. There is some indicia from the pretrial sentencing, the pretrial report agency, that this person has no criminal history. They don't have a violent criminal history, much less any criminal history at all. So it is possible that the judge at bail in this case and fashion conditions of release that can keep the community safe. I will say that the interesting part here is, when I was a federal prosecutor, I was in a cashless bail system. And there, the determination is dangerousness, because there really is no connection between someone's ability to pay bail and their dangerousness to the community, right? Cash bail is simply criminalization of poverty. So it's going to be interesting to see what the judge does for sure.
Bianca Forde, appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.